Daiho stood in front of the display screen and watched the alien ship approach. It was beautiful. The vessel looked like it was made of crystal and light. After 3 months of sending messages back and forth across space, the Vryn were finally here. His heart beat faster. This was humanity's first real contact with another intelligent species. "You ready for this?" Hyunwoo asked from behind him. His friend and colleague was trying to sound casual, but Daiho could hear the excitement in his voice. "As ready as I'll ever be," Daiho replied. He checked his uniform one more time. As the cultural liaison officer for Unity's promise, he would be one of the first humans to meet the Vryn face to face. Everything had to be perfect. Commander Park's voice came through the speakers. "All personnel to your positions. The Vryn delegation will dock in 15 minutes. Those 15 minutes felt like hours. Daiho went over his notes one more time. The Vryn were a careful species. They rarely met with outsiders. Humans were the newest species to discover faster than light travel, and everyone in the galaxy was watching to see what would happen. When the airlock finally opened, Daiho held his breath. 3 Vryn stepped through. They were taller than humans, with skin that seemed to glow from within. Patterns of light moved across their bodies like slow waves on water. Their features were sharp and angular, almost like they were carved from crystal. Each had 3 fingers on each hand instead of 5. The eldest Vryn stepped forward. Daiho recognized Counselor Thess from the video calls. The patterns on their skin glowed a steady blue color. "Welcome to Unity's promise," Commander Park said, her voice calm and professional. "We are honored by your presence," Thess bowed slightly. "The honor is ours. We look forward to learning about your species." The younger Vryn stood behind Thess. One of them kept looking around the ship with obvious curiosity. Their light patterns flickered faster than the others, shifting through different colors. Daiho found himself watching them. There was something different about this one. Later that day, Daiho gave his first presentation to the Vryn delegation. The conference room was set up with displays showing information about human biology and culture. He had practiced this talk dozens of times, but now that 3 pairs of crystalline eyes were watching him, he felt nervous. "One of the unique things about humans," Daiho explained, "is how our bodies show our emotions. When we feel strong feelings, blood vessels in our skin expand. This makes our faces change color. We call it blushing." The curious young Vryn leaned forward. Their patterns suddenly flashed bright violet. "This happens without your control?" they asked. Their voice had a musical quality to it. "Yes, exactly," Daiho said. "We cannot stop it from happening. When we are embarrassed or emotional, our faces turn red automatically." The young Vryn's patterns pulsed with several colors at once. "Fascinating. Among all known species, none have this visible involuntary response to emotion. May I ask your name?" "Kang Daiho. I'm the Cultural Liaison Officer. I'm called Liz. I'm a xenobiologist. I study other species." Their patterns continued to flicker violet. "Can you demonstrate this blushing response?" Daiho felt his face grow warm just from the question. "Well, I'm actually doing it right now. Thinking about embarrassing moments makes it happen. When I was a child, I once sang the wrong words to a song in front of my entire school." As he spoke, he felt his cheeks get warmer. The Vryn all stared at him intently. Liz's whole body suddenly flared brilliant violet for 3 full seconds. "Remarkable," Liz whispered. "Your face has changed to a pink color. And this happened just from remembering the event?" "Yes. Our emotions and our bodies are closely connected." The presentation continued, but Daiho noticed that Liz kept watching him carefully. They took detailed notes and asked many questions. Every time Daiho looked in their direction, Liz's patterns flashed violet again. Over the next 2 weeks, Daiho gave several more presentations. Liz attended all of them and always sat in the front row. They asked more questions than any of the other Vryn. After the 3rd session, Liz approached Daiho with a request. "Would it be possible to have private study sessions?" Liz asked. Their patterns were doing something complicated, shifting between blue and violet. "I am assigned to document human biology for our records. Direct observation would be valuable." "Of course," Daiho agreed. "I'm happy to help. When would you like to start?" "Tomorrow? In the xenobiology lab?" Liz's patterns pulsed violet again. Daiho smiled. "That works perfectly." That evening, Hyunwoo found Daiho in the mess hall. "So the alien scientist wants private sessions with you, huh?" He was grinning widely. "It's for research," Daiho said. "Liz is documenting human biology." Sure, research." Hyunwoo laughed. You know their patterns turn bright violet every time you're around, right? I looked it up. That's extremely rare for Vrin. I think you have an admirer. Daeho shook his head. Don't be ridiculous. We just met. And they're not even human. Liz is just interested in how different our species are. If you say so. Hyunwoo was still grinning. But I'm telling you, I've been watching the Vrin for 2 weeks now. None of the others show violet patterns. Just Liz. And only when you're nearby. Daeho went back to his quarters thinking about what Hyunwoo had said. It was impossible, wasn't it? Lace was a scientist from another world. The violet patterns were probably just a normal response to interesting data. There was no way an alien could be interested in him personally. The next day, Daeho arrived at the xenobiology lab right on time. Liz was already there, surrounded by display screens showing information about human physiology. Their patterns were glowing a soft blue, but when Daeho entered the room, they immediately shifted to violet. Thank you for coming, Liz said. I have many questions about the cardiovascular system and its connection to emotion. You mentioned that blood flow changes cause the color shift in your face. Can you explain how this works? For the next hour, Daeho explained human biology in detail. Liz listened carefully and took notes. But Daeho noticed something strange. Whenever he looked directly at Liz, their patterns would pulse brighter. And when he described emotional responses, Liz's patterns moved faster across their skin. Can you demonstrate the blushing response again? Liz asked. I want to observe it more closely. Daeho thought about his most embarrassing memories. As he did, he felt his face grow warm. It's happening now, he said quietly. Liz stepped closer, studying his face intently. Their patterns flared so bright that the entire lab seemed to glow violet. The light stayed that way for several seconds, longer than Daeho had seen before. Fascinating, Liz breathed. Your species is truly unique. No other known species shows such honest emotion so clearly. You cannot hide what you feel. Daeho smiled. That's both our weakness and our strength. What about your patterns? Can you control them? Liz's patterns flickered rapidly through several colors before settling back to violet. Usually, yes. We learned control from childhood. But sometimes strong stimuli make them react automatically. Like right now? Daeho asked. Your patterns have been violet since I arrived. For a moment, Liz's patterns went completely still. Then they pulsed even brighter. That is an unusual observation, they said slowly. I should record more data. Would you be willing to meet again tomorrow? Sure, Daeho agreed. Same time? Yes, thank you, Daeho. The way Liz said his name made their patterns shimmer with gold mixed through the violet. As Daeho left the lab, he realized his heart was beating faster than normal. He told himself it was just excitement about the cultural exchange. Just professional interest in an alien species. It had nothing to do with the way Liz looked at him with such intense curiosity, or the way their patterns glowed brighter whenever he spoke. Nothing at all. But as he walked back to his quarters, Daeho couldn't stop thinking about tomorrow's session. And he couldn't help wondering what it meant that Liz's patterns turned violet only around him. 3 weeks had passed since the Vrin arrived. Daeho and Liz now met every day in the xenobiology lab. What started as simple biology lessons had become something more. They talked about everything: family, childhood, dreams. The conversations flowed easily between them, despite coming from different worlds. Today they were having lunch together in the observation deck. The room had large windows showing the stars and the distant Vrin homeworld. Liz had brought food from their ship, curious to share it with Daeho. Tell me about your family, Liz said as they ate. Their patterns were a warm amber color today. Do humans maintain close family bonds? Daeho smiled, thinking of home. Very close. I have parents, a younger sister, and grandparents. We video call every week. My mother worries that I'm not eating enough out here in space. That concern shows love, Liz observed. Vrin families are different. We live in larger groups. Individual bonds are less intense, but watching humans, I wonder if we lost something when we chose that path. What do you mean? Daeho asked. Liz's patterns shifted to a deep purple. We evolved to control our emotions. It helped us survive. But humans kept their emotional intensity. You feel things so deeply. When you speak about your family, your whole face changes. Your eyes brighten. Your voice gets softer. The love shows clearly. Is that bad? Daeho felt suddenly self-conscious. No. Liz's patterns flared bright violet. It's beautiful, honest. I find myself wanting to understand it better. To feel that way, too. Deho looked out the window, his heart beating faster. These conversations with Liz always left him feeling things he didn't quite understand. He changed the subject. What makes you happy, Liz? What do Vryn do for joy? Liz was quiet for a moment. I find joy in learning, in discovery, and lately, their patterns pulsed rapidly. I find joy in these conversations, in your company. Before Deho could respond, other Vryn scientists entered the observation deck. They looked at Liz and Deho sitting together, then exchanged glances. One of them spoke to Liz in their own language. Liz's patterns flickered nervously between blue and violet. After the other Vryn left, Liz seemed troubled. They are concerned, they explained. They say I'm spending too much time with you, that I am becoming too focused on human behavior. Is that true? Deho asked carefully. Liz's patterns swirled with many colors. Perhaps. But I cannot seem to help it. There's something about you, about humans, that calls to something deep inside me, something I did not know was there until we met. That evening there was a formal diplomatic dinner. Both the human and Vryn delegations attended. Deho sat at the main table with Commander Park and the other senior officers. Liz sat with the Vryn delegation across the room. One of the older Vryn elders made a speech. We appreciate this cultural exchange, they said. Though we must admit humans are quite different from what we expected. So emotional, so unpredictable, some might say unstable. The comment stung. Deho saw several humans shift uncomfortably. But before he could respond, Liz stood up. Their patterns blazed brilliant violet, brighter than Deho had ever seen. With respect, Elder, Liz said clearly, I believe you misunderstand. Human emotional expression is not instability. It is honesty. They do not hide what they feel. They do not pretend. In my research, I have found this transparency to be humanity's greatest strength, not a weakness. The room went silent. Every Vryn stared at Liz. Their patterns were still glowing violet, making their position clear to everyone present. They were standing with the humans. Deho felt warmth spread through his chest. He stood as well. Thank you, Liz, and if I may add something, Elder. Yes, we are emotional. Yes, we show our feelings openly. But that openness is what allows us to form deep connections, to truly understand each other. We believe that sharing our true selves, even when it's difficult, creates stronger bonds than any amount of logical calculation. Commander Park smiled slightly and raised her glass. To honesty and connection, she said. The dinner continued, but the atmosphere had changed. Later, as everyone was leaving, Deho found Les near the doorway. Thank you for what you said, he told them. You didn't have to defend us. Liz's patterns softened to a warm gold. I spoke the truth. Your people have shown me something important. Something my own people forgot long ago. The courage to be vulnerable, to let others see who you really are. And you? Deho asked quietly. Do you let others see who you really are? Liz looked directly at him. I am trying to learn. You are teaching me, Deho. Every day. A few days later, Commander Park called Deho to her office. She gestured for him to sit. How are the cultural exchanges going? She asked. Very well, Commander. The Vryn are genuinely interested in learning about us. Particularly one Vryn scientist, I've noticed. Commander Park's expression was knowing. Liz has been spending a lot of time with you. Deho felt his face grow warm. It's part of their research assignment. Deho. Commander Park leaned forward. I have been doing diplomatic work for 20 years. I know what I'm seeing. That Vryn is not just interested in human biology. They're interested in you specifically, and unless I'm mistaken, the feeling is mutual. Deho didn't know what to say. His face felt hot. Commander Park smiled gently. I'm not criticizing. Actually, I think it might be the best thing that could happen for this mission. Real connection between our species. Not just formal agreements, but genuine caring. That's powerful diplomacy. But they're Vryn, Deho said. We're so different. How could anything real develop between us? Are you really that different? Commander Park asked. From what I've observed, Liz responds to your presence the same way any human would respond to someone they care about. Their patterns glow. They seek you out. They defend you publicly. Those are universal signs of attachment. That night, Deho couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about what Commander Park had said. About Liz, about the way his heart beat faster whenever they entered a room. about how he looked forward to their daily meetings more than anything else. He found himself in the xenobiology lab late at night. He wasn't expecting anyone else to be there, but when he entered, he saw Liz standing by the window looking at the stars. "Deho," Liz said, turning. Their patterns immediately shifted to violet. "I did not expect to see you. Is something wrong?" "No, I just couldn't sleep. Too many thoughts." Deho walked over to stand beside them at the window. "What about you?" "The same." Liz was quiet for a moment. "Deho, can I ask you something personal?" "Of course." "Your face changes color when you think of home. It becomes softer, pinker. I have been observing you carefully for weeks now. Your body shows your feelings before your words do. It's remarkable. But also," Liz's pattern swirled with many colors, "it makes me realize how much I don't show. How controlled I am. How distant." "You're not distant," Deho said. "You show plenty. Your patterns are always changing around me, violet especially." Liz turned to face him fully. Their patterns pulsed bright violet, almost glowing in the dim lab. "Do you know what violet means for Vryn?" "No," Deho admitted. His heart was racing now. "It is rare, very rare. Most Vryn never show violet in their entire lives. It appears when we feel something intense, something that overwhelms our normal control. I have been showing violet constantly since the day I met you. Every single time you look at me, Deho, my patterns respond. I cannot stop them." Deho felt like he couldn't breathe. "Liz, I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything. I just needed you to understand. I came here as a scientist, to study humans objectively. But something happened. You happened. And now I feel things I have never felt before, things my species long ago learned to suppress. You awakened something in me, Deho." Deho reached out slowly and touched Liz's hand with his. 3 fingers wrapped around 5, different but somehow fitting perfectly together. "I feel it too," he said quietly. "I didn't want to admit it. I told myself it was just professional interest. But I look forward to seeing you every day. I think about you when you're not around. And when you defended humans at that dinner, something in my chest felt like it would burst." Liz's patterns blazed so bright, they lit up the entire lab. "Then we are both feeling the same impossible thing." "Maybe not impossible," Deho said. "Just unprecedented." They stood together in the darkness, holding hands, both glowing in their own ways. One with patterns of light, the other with warmth spreading across his face. 2 different species, showing the same emotion in different languages, but somehow impossibly understanding each other perfectly. The morning alarm came too early. Deho had barely slept. In 2 hours he would stand before the entire Vryn Council and argue for the Human-Vryn Alliance. Everything depended on this presentation. A crisis had emerged overnight. A group of older Vryn counselors had presented evidence against the alliance. They showed records of human wars, conflicts, violence. They argued that humans were too emotional, too unstable, too dangerous to trust. Deho understood their concerns. Human history was complicated, messy, full of mistakes, but it was also full of growth, learning, and incredible compassion. He just had to make them see that. He went to the observation deck to think. The presentation was almost ready, but something felt missing. He needed to find the right words, the right way to show the Vryn who humans really were. You could not sleep either. Deho turned to find Liz standing in the doorway. Their patterns were dim and flickering, barely visible. In Vryn, that meant distress. "Liz, what's wrong?" Liz walked over slowly. "I listened to the council's arguments against your people. The evidence they presented, the concerns they raised, and the worst part is I understand why they are afraid." "You think they're right?" Deho felt his chest tighten. "No." Liz's patterns flared brighter, pulsing with violet and gold. "I know they are wrong, but I cannot make them understand why. My people became so careful, so controlled. We forgot what it means to truly feel, and now they look at humans and see danger instead of beauty." Deho moved closer. "What changed your mind? When you first met us, you were just studying us scientifically. What made you see us differently?" Liz looked at him directly. "You did. You showed me what my species has been missing. You laugh when you are happy. You cry when you are sad. Your face changes color when you feel strongly about something. You do not hide your emotions. You do not pretend to be something you are not. And in doing so, you gave me permission to feel again." "I don't understand," Deho said softly. "Watching you these past weeks, I remembered things, feelings I had as a young Vryn before I learned to control everything. Wonder, joy, curiosity, and something else. Something I did not have words for until I studied human emotions. Liss's patterns cascaded through colors, violet dominating. Affection, connection, caring. The feelings that make you look forward to seeing someone, that make their presence feel like coming home. Deho felt his face grow warm. His heart beat so hard he was sure Liss could see it. Liss, I feel the same way. I tried to tell myself it was just professional interest, but I can't lie to myself anymore. Every time I see you, everything feels brighter, more real. Liss reached out and touched Deho's face gently with 3 fingers. Their skin was cool and smooth, almost like crystal. This, they whispered. This color change in your face. This is honesty. This is what we need, what my people need to remember. They stood close together in the dim light of the observation deck, both glowing. One with patterns of violet and gold, the other with warmth spreading across his face. Neither spoke for a long moment. Will you be there today? Deho asked finally. At the presentation? I will be in the front row, Liss promised. As I always am. Hours later, Deho stood before the assembled council. Humans on one side of the large chamber, Vryn on the other. Everyone was silent, watching him. The weight of 2 species' futures pressed down on his shoulders. He found Liss in the crowd immediately. They sat in the Vryn section, patterns already glowing violet. Just seeing them gave Deho courage. Honored counselors, Deho began. You have seen evidence of humanity's flaws. Our history of conflict, our emotional volatility. I will not deny any of it. Yes, we have fought wars. Yes, we have made terrible mistakes. Yes, we feel things intensely and sometimes act on those feelings in destructive ways. The Vryn counselors. Patterns remained cool blue, skeptical, but I ask you to also consider the other side of human emotion, Deho continued. The same capacity for strong feeling that can lead to conflict also leads to extraordinary compassion. We risk our lives to save strangers. We dedicate ourselves to helping others even when there is no logical benefit. We create art and music that moves us to tears. We love fiercely and deeply. We do not hide what we feel, and that honesty creates bonds of trust. He saw some patterns shift slightly. A few Vryn were listening. You have evolved to control your emotions, Deho said. That control has brought your species great achievements. But humans evolved differently. We kept our emotions close to the surface. And yes, that makes us messy sometimes. Complicated, hard to predict. But it also makes us capable of connections that transcend logic. He looked at Liss. Their patterns were pulsing in rhythm with his words. Violet brightening during the passionate moments, gold softening during the reflective parts. Over these past weeks, I have learned about Vryn culture. I have studied your history. And I have noticed something. Your people were not always so controlled. Your ancient texts speak of intense bonds between individuals, of art that moved entire populations, of passion and wonder. Somewhere along the way, you learned to suppress those responses, perhaps for good reasons. But I wonder if in gaining control you lost something valuable. More patterns were shifting now. Some Vryn looked uncomfortable. Others looked thoughtful. Look at your own scientist, Deho said, gesturing toward Liss. Liss has been studying human behavior for weeks, and in that time something remarkable has happened. Liss shows violet patterns constantly now. Colors that most Vryn never display in their entire lives. Why? Because exposure to human emotional honesty awakened something in them. Something that was always there, just buried deep. Liss's patterns blazed brilliant violet, visible to everyone in the chamber. They did not try to hide it. Instead, they stood up. Deho speaks truth, Liss said clearly. I came here as an objective observer. But humans taught me something our people have forgotten. They taught me that feeling deeply is not weakness. That showing emotion is not loss of control. It is courage. It is honesty. And it is beautiful. Counselor Thess stood as well. You have been compromised by human influence, Thess said, but their tone was not harsh. It was curious, perhaps, Liss agreed. Or perhaps I have been reminded of who I really am. Who we all really are underneath the control. Deho stepped forward. I am not asking you to become like humans. I am asking you to consider that our differences could complement each other. You have logic and careful planning. We have passion and emotional insight. Together we could accomplish things neither species could alone. The alliance is not about one species changing to match the other. It is about both species growing by learning from each other. The chamber was silent. Then Tess spoke again. You have given us much to consider, human Daiho. And Liz has shown us something unexpected. Perhaps we need more time to observe this phenomenon, to understand what it means. After the presentation, people dispersed slowly. Daiho felt exhausted but hopeful. The council had not voted yet, but they were thinking. That was something. Liz found him in the corridor outside. You were brilliant, they said. We were brilliant, Daiho corrected. You standing up like that, showing your patterns to everyone. That took incredible courage. I learned that courage from you. Liz reached for his hand. You show yourself honestly every moment. Your face betrays your feelings. You do not hide. How could I do less? Counselor Thess appeared behind them. Both Daiho and Liz straightened, but they did not let go of each other's hands. Liz, Thess said, I must ask you directly. Has studying the human made you feel, or have you begun to feel for the human? Liz's patterns erupted in every color at once, cascading rapidly across their body. The truth was impossible to hide. Both, Liz said simply. I feel because of what I learned, and I feel for who I learned it from. Thess looked at their joined hands, at Liz's brilliant patterns, at Daiho's flushed face. Then, surprisingly, Thess's own patterns shifted to include a faint streak of violet. Perhaps, Thess said slowly, that is the data we actually needed. Not records of human conflicts, but evidence of human capacity for connection. You two have shown us something important. I will recommend the Alliance move forward. As Thess walked away, Daiho let out a breath he did not know he was holding. Liz squeezed his hand gently. We did it, Liz whispered. We did, Daiho agreed. But he knew the real achievement was not the political alliance. It was this. Two beings from different worlds, learning to understand each other, learning to care, learning that the distance between species was smaller than anyone thought. What happens now? Liz asked. Daiho smiled. Now we figure it out together. The council voted to approve the alliance. Celebrations filled Unity's promise. Humans and Vryn mingled in the common areas, sharing food and stories. It should have been the happiest day of the mission. But Liz stood alone near the edge of the gathering, their patterns muted and controlled. Daiho made his way through the crowd toward them. Several people congratulated him along the way. Commander Park smiled and gave him an approving nod. But all Daiho could think about was Liz and why they looked so distant. You're not celebrating, he said quietly when he reached them. Liz's patterns flickered briefly to violet, then back to controlled blue. I am happy about the alliance, truly, but I need to speak with you privately. Can we go somewhere quiet? They went to the xenobiology lab, the place where they had first really talked, where Liz had asked so many questions and Daiho had started falling for an alien scientist without even realizing it. Liz stood by the window, looking at the data displays. I have been researching, they said, looking at records from across the galaxy, studying every documented case of cross-species relationships. Do you know how many examples I found? How many? Daiho asked, though his chest already felt tight. 7. In the entire recorded history of galactic civilization, 7 successful relationships between different species. Most lasted only briefly. The biological and cultural differences were too great. Liz's patterns were dim, barely visible. The odds are not in our favor, Daiho. Daiho walked over to stand beside them. Is that why you're upset? Because the statistics say it won't work? I am upset because other Vryn have noticed my patterns around you. They know what it means now. Some are fascinated. Others are concerned. They say I have been compromised by human influence, that I should maintain professional distance. Liz finally turned to face him. They are asking me to stop working with you. Daiho felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. And what do you want? Forget the statistics. Forget what other people say. What do you want, Liz? Liz's patterns exploded into brilliant violet like they had been holding back a flood. I want to keep working with you. I want to understand why my entire biochemistry responds to your presence. I want to explore this connection wherever it leads. But I am afraid. Afraid of making a mistake. Afraid of what it means. Afraid that what I feel is not being translated correctly across our species barrier. Daiho took Liz's 3-digit hand in both of his. Then let me be clear so there's no translation error. Liz, I have been falling for you since the 2nd week. When you asked me why humans cry when they are happy, you were so genuinely puzzled and curious. You see humanity without judgment. You see me without judgment. That is incredibly rare, he took a breath. His face felt warm. Yes, I know we are different species. Yes, I know there are no guidebooks for this. But I also know that I look forward to every moment I get to spend with you. I think about you when you're not around. When you defended humans at that council meeting, something in my chest felt like it would explode. I don't have a word for what I feel except that it matters. You matter. Liss's patterns were so bright now they lit up the entire lab. Deho, I have never felt this way before. Not just because you are human. Because Vryn society has spent generations dampening emotional intensity. We call it evolution. Advancement, but meeting you made me realize we just became afraid. Afraid of feeling too much. And now? Deho asked softly. Now every time I see you, my patterns respond beyond my control. When you smile at me, when you explain human concepts with such passion, when your face flushes because you are embarrassed or emotional, I feel what my people have been suppressing for centuries. I have been calling it scientific interest because I did not have words for what it actually was. And what is it actually? Deho's heart was beating so hard he could hear it. Liss moved closer until they were standing just inches apart. Humans have many words for it: affection, caring, attraction, love. I have studied all these terms. I think what I feel includes all of them. But more than that, you make me want to be braver, to feel more deeply, to stop hiding behind research and control. You make me want to be fully myself, even if that self is messy and complicated. Deho reached up and gently touched Liss's face. Their skin was cool and smooth, the patterns pulsing under his fingers. Then be messy. Be complicated. I'm not asking you to be anything but yourself. Even if myself includes feelings that defy logic, even if it means my people will question my judgment. Especially then, Liss, you stood in front of the entire council and defended humanity, when it would have been safer to stay silent. You let your patterns show violet to everyone, even though you knew what it revealed. That is not compromised judgment. That is courage. Liss made a sound that was almost like a laugh. You make it sound simple. It is simple, Deho said. Not easy, but simple. Do you want to explore this connection between us? Yes or no? Yes. Liss's patterns blazed brilliant violet and gold together. Yes, I do. Even though it is unprecedented. Even though we will be scrutinized. Even though I do not know how it will work. Yes. The door to the lab opened suddenly. Hyunwoo stood there with a huge grin on his face. I knew it. I called this in week 1. You two are absolutely glowing. Literally in Liss's case. Deho felt his face turn bright red. Liss's patterns flickered with what might have been embarrassment. But neither of them let go of each other. Hyunwoo, Deho said, trying to sound stern but unable to stop smiling. Do you need something? Just wanted to tell you that Commander Park wants to see you both. But I can see you're busy having a moment, so I'll tell her you'll be there in 10 minutes. Hyunwoo was still grinning. About time you two figured it out. Everyone on the ship has been watching this develop for weeks. After Hyunwoo left, Deho and Liss looked at each other and both laughed. The tension broke. Everything felt lighter somehow. Everyone knows, Liss asked. Apparently we were not as subtle as we thought, Deho said. Does that bother you? No. Liss's pattern settled into a steady warm glow. If you are teaching me to be honest about feelings, then I should not hide this. Whatever this is, it is real. It is important. Let them see. They walked to Commander Park's office together. When they entered, they found not just the commander but also Counselor Thess waiting. Both leaders watched them approach with knowing expressions. Sit, please, Commander Park said. Her tone was warm. We wanted to discuss your future roles in this alliance. Thess spoke next. The connection between you two has not gone unnoticed by either species. Many are watching with great interest. What you have created, whether intentionally or not, is a bridge, living proof that our species can understand each other on a level deeper than mere diplomatic agreements. Commander Park nodded. I have seen many diplomatic missions in my career. Most succeed or fail based on treaties and trade agreements. But what makes an alliance truly lasting is connection between people. Trust. Understanding. What you two have built is exactly that. What are you asking of us? Deho said carefully. Liss, you have been approved for extended assignment to human space, Thess said. If you wish to continue this cultural exchange work, the Council believes your unique perspective would be valuable. And Deho, Commander Park added, you are being offered a permanent position as liaison to Vryn space. Your ability to connect with them has exceeded all expectations. The work you two do together creates better outcomes than decades of formal protocols could achieve. Deho looked at Liz. Their patterns were glowing with gold and violet, happiness and hope mixed together. They reached for his hand under the table. "We accept," they said together. Thes's patterns flickered with that same faint violet Deho had seen before. "I thought you might. One more thing you should know. Centuries ago, Vryn were far more emotionally expressive. We evolved to suppress those responses when logic-based decision-making improved survival. But I have been watching Liz's transformation, and I see not a corruption of Vryn nature. I see a remembering of it." The elder looked at them both seriously. "Perhaps humans are not showing us something foreign. Perhaps they are reflecting something we lost. And if one Vryn can remember, others might as well. You two are the beginning of something important. Not just for diplomacy, but for both our species' growth." After the meeting, Deho and Liz walked back through the ship's corridors. People watched them pass, human and Vryn alike. But the stares did not feel judgmental. They felt curious. "Hopeful even, are you scared?" Liz asked quietly. "We will be watched by billions. Every move we make will be analyzed. We will face challenges no one has faced before. Different biologies. Different cultures. Different worlds." "Terrified," Deho admitted, "but also more certain than I have ever been about anything. This thing between us, it is real. It is worth fighting for. Yes, it will be hard. Yes, we will make mistakes, but we will figure it out together." Liz stopped walking and turned to face him fully. Their patterns cascaded through colors like a visible heartbeat. "Together," they repeated. "I like that word. It means we do not face the unknown alone." "Exactly," Deho said, taking both of Liz's 3-digit hands in his. "We face it together. And honestly, I cannot imagine facing it with anyone else." They stood in the corridor, two beings from different worlds holding hands and glowing in their own ways. One with patterns of the formal alliance ceremony was scheduled for the following week. It would be broadcast across human space and all Vryn worlds. Billions would watch as the two species officially became partners. Deho and Lice were both scheduled to speak as representatives of the cultural exchange program. Representatives from other galactic species began arriving to witness the historic event. The station filled with beings from a dozen different worlds, all curious about humanity. This emotionally transparent species that somehow convinced the cautious Vryn to open their borders. Deho found Liz in the preparation room the night before the ceremony. They were standing alone, patterns dim and flickering with anxiety. "Cannot sleep?" he asked gently. Liz turned to him. "I am nervous. Tomorrow, billions will watch. My connection with you will be obvious during the ceremony. My patterns will show violet. I cannot control it anymore, especially when you are near. People will know. Everyone will know." Deho walked over and took their hands. "Do you remember our first conversation about blushing? You were fascinated that humans could not hide their feelings. You said the honesty was beautiful." "I remember," Liz said softly. "So be honest. Let your patterns show exactly what you feel. That authenticity is why this alliance exists in the first place. We connected because neither of us tried to hide who we really are. Why should tomorrow be different?" Liz's patterns brightened slightly. "You make it sound simple again. It is simple. Be yourself. Show what you feel, and know that I will be right there beside you, probably blushing the entire time." Deho smiled. "We face it together, remember?" "Together," Liz repeated. Their patterns settled into warm gold. Yes, together. The next day arrived faster than either of them expected. The ceremony chamber was enormous, with seats for thousands of attendees. Cameras were positioned everywhere to broadcast the event across the galaxy. Deho stood backstage with Liz, both waiting for their turn to speak. Commander Park spoke first, outlining the terms of the alliance. Then Counselor Thes gave the Vryn perspective. Both speeches were formal and professional. Then it was time for the cultural exchange representatives. Deho walked out to the podium first. The lights were bright. He could see the crowd, humans and Vryn and other species, all watching intently. Cameras captured every movement. He took a breath and began. "I came to this mission to teach the Vryn about human culture, but I learned as much as I taught. Maybe more. The Vryn showed me that difference is not something to fear. It is something to celebrate. They challenged me to understand perspectives completely unlike my own. They taught me that connection is possible even across vast distances of space and biology." He paused, looking at Liz waiting in the wings. One Vrin scientist in particular taught me that being different does not mean being incompatible. It means having the opportunity to grow, to see ourselves through new eyes, to discover strengths we did not know we had. Liz walked out to join him at the podium. Their patterns were already glowing violet. Every camera captured it. Billions across the galaxy saw it clearly. I came to study human biology, Liz said, their voice clear and steady. I approached it as a scientific problem. How are humans unique? What makes them different? I found many answers in my research. But the most important discovery was not about human biology. It was about Vrin psychology. Their patterns pulsed brighter. Humans taught me that we Vrin suppressed something valuable when we evolved toward emotional control. We gained stability and logic, but we lost intensity and passion. Humans reminded me that feeling deeply is not weakness. Showing emotion is not loss of control. It is honesty. It is courage. And it is beautiful. Liz looked at Deho. One human in particular showed me that differences are not barriers. They are invitations. Invitations to grow beyond what we thought possible. To feel what we thought we had lost. To connect in ways we thought were impossible. The chamber was completely silent. Every being present was watching the two of them standing together. This alliance is more than trade agreements or military cooperation, Deho said. It is about two species choosing to learn from each other, to see value in different perspectives, to build something new together. And it starts with individuals, Liz added, with personal connections, with choosing courage over caution, with letting ourselves be vulnerable enough to truly see each other. Then Liz did something unprecedented. They reached for Deho's hand in front of everyone. Their patterns cascaded through brilliant violets and golds, visible to billions of viewers. Deho felt his face flush warm and red. Neither tried to hide their reactions. Thank you, Deho, Liz said clearly, for teaching me that emotion is not weakness. It is the foundation of understanding. Thank you for showing me what my species forgot. Thank you for having the courage to connect across impossible distances. The response was immediate. Across human and Vrin communication networks, the moment went viral. Not as a scandal, but as inspiration. Humans saw acceptance from another species. Vrin saw one of their own embracing feeling without shame. Other galactic species saw that cultural boundaries could be crossed. After the ceremony, the celebration was even larger than before. But this time, Liz did not stand at the edges. They stayed with Deho, patterns glowing steadily, making no attempt to hide their connection. Hyunwoo found them with drinks in hand, still grinning. You two just became the most famous couple in the galaxy. How does it feel? Terrifying, Deho admitted. But also right. We did not set out to become symbols, Liz added. We just followed what was honest. What was real? Well, you are symbols now, Hyunwoo said. Symbols of what happens when people choose connection over fear. I am proud to know you both. Later that night, Deho and Liz returned to the observation deck. The same place where they had first really talked. Where Liz had explained how rare violet patterns were. Where they had both started to understand what was growing between them. They stood at the window watching the stars between human and Vrin space, both systems visible from here. Two worlds that had seemed so separate before now, connected by more than treaties. What comes next? Liz asked quietly. We have our assignments. Extended work together, but beyond that, what do we become? Deho was quiet for a moment, thinking. I do not know. Cross-species relationships are unprecedented. We will face challenges nobody has faced before. People will watch our every move. We will make mistakes. Things will be difficult. That sounds daunting, Liz said, but their patterns were glowing warmly. It is. But you know what else I know? Deho took Liz's hand. I know that when I see you, everything feels right. I know that your curiosity and courage amaze me every day. I know that you make me want to be braver and more honest. And I know that whatever comes next, I want to face it with you. Liz's pattern shifted through colors as they considered. The violet of affection, the gold of curiosity, the silver of anticipation. Do you know what happens when I am near you, Deho? My biochemistry shifts before I consciously register your presence. My patterns respond automatically. At first I thought it was malfunction, then contamination, but now I understand. It is recognition. Recognition of what? Deho asked. That you matter to me. That you have become essential. My body knows this before my mind accepts it, just as your face changes color before you can control it. We both betray our feelings automatically now. And I would not change it. Deho smiled. You know what happens when I see you? My heart rate increases. Blood rushes to my face. I smile without deciding to. It is not logical. It is not controlled. And I would not change it either. Because that response, that automatic reaction, that is what it means to truly feel, to connect with someone beyond reason. Liz moved closer and rested their head against Deho's shoulder. Their patterns settled into a steady, warm violet glow. Different species showing affection in different ways, but the meaning was universal. Perhaps, Liz whispered, I am learning what it means to be human. Deho laughed softly. You are more human in spirit than many humans I know. But what you are really learning is how to be yourself without restraint, how to feel fully and show it honestly. That is the best part of being human, and you have mastered it. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the stars. Two worlds visible in the darkness. Two species learning to understand each other. Two individuals who found something unprecedented and chose to pursue it anyway. Unknown to them, Counselor Thess stood outside the observation deck, watching through the doorway. Another elder approached and asked, Is this relationship appropriate? An alien and one of our scientists? Thess was quiet for a long moment, patterns flickering thoughtfully. Appropriate? Perhaps not by traditional standards. But necessary? Absolutely. Look at them. A human whose face shows emotion automatically. A Vryn whose patterns glow with feeling, both willing to be vulnerable, both choosing courage over caution. But what does it mean for our people? The other elder asked. It means hope, Thess said simply. They are showing both our species what we can become when we choose connection over isolation. When we let ourselves feel instead of just think. That is the real alliance. Not between governments, but between